like to thank everyone for coming out today. I think we can all agree that there is a problem. But the problem we face is the unwillingness of the local government to enforce policies already put in place to protect our environment.
Our opponents would have you believe that in order to protect our environment, we need to violate the rights and freedoms of our citizens. This is not the case. Banning smoking on public beaches is a policy that has been suggested, reviewed, and dismissed. According to recent Rasmussen report, Republicans and Democrats are in agreement when it comes to outdoor smoking bans, with 51% of each party against the idea and 51% of citizens in a national telephone survey are not in favor of such a proposal. Just this year, the state of California proposed a similar action and was rightfully vetoed by the governor.
As you can see, here in this letter we're fixing to show you to the state Senate, the governor points out clearly that this bill is an improper intrusion of government into people's lives. This bill crosses an important threshold between state power and command and local decision making.
He says there's something inherently uncomfortable about the idea of the state encroaching in such a broad manner on the people. And we agree the purpose of the bill undermining the difference between legal activity and illegal activity is literally a line in the sand. Marine debris and litter know no boundaries. A more appropriate response is to increase the fines and penalties already in law.
For littering in our parks and our beaches. This particular statement holds a lot of importance in this debate because our beaches and parks should be protected from litter. As a society, we agree that we need
to put laws into effect to prevent people from leaving their garbage and refuse in public places, especially our beaches, which are Florida's number one tourism attraction. But our local governments have dropped the ball.
In the name of saving money and time, local governments have turned a blind eye to littering. I think the best example to illustrate would be our neighbors in the city of Boca Raton. The city's own policy can be made clear by this email sent by a city representative. The city admits their policy is not to enforce the legislation that protects our coastlines. Legislation that would be effective in protecting our environment and our tourism income is being pushed to the side, and we believe it is time to utilize the current laws by enforcing these policies. Our local bodies can send a clear message to irresponsible citizens: clean up after yourselves or face the consequences.
Litter is the problem, but health is the ammunition to the pro side would say used to sway your opinion. Health is an important matter, but it is one that must be evaluated by factual data. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, is one of America's most trusted sources on the matters of health, and the EPA's finding on which we as a society base our actions and regulations on. The EPA recently completed a report on the effects of environmental tobacco smoke, referred to as ETS, the residual materials from burning cigarettes that is released into indoor environment by the process of active smoking. According to the recent article by Gary L. Huber, who is a professor at Texas Health Center in Tyler, Texas, Robert E. Brocky is at Presbyterian and Doctor Hospital in Dallas, Texas, and VJK Mahajan is a professor of medicine at St. Vincent Hospital in Toledo, Ohio. The EPA bases its conclusions not only on a definite set of data demonstrating casualty, but on a generalized total weight of evidence.
That, in aggregate, implied casualty to the EPA. In reaching those conclusions, the EPA ignored the classic criteria for cause and effect relationships employed by the scientific community. Without a clearly established mechanism for determining casualty, declaring that a substance in our environment poses a significant health risk, usually resets upon the convergence of three cornerstones of scientific evidence. These include evidence from population studies that exposure to the agent is associated with the development of disease in humans, evidence that exposure to a specific substance or agent results in a specific disease, and evidence that the specific agent causes the disease in question in a certain measurable dose, accumulative or otherwise, or at a certain level of exposure. The EPA's conclusion regarding ETS, however, did not satisfy those evidentiary criteria. Instead, the EPA weighted and selected data in the attempt to support its conclusions by other means.
A critical assessment of the validity of the EPA's conclusion then requires careful understanding of the manipulations by which evidence was weighted. The EPA's risk assessment is built on the manipulation of data.
Ignores the critical chemical analysis and the key epidemiological data, violates the time-honored statistics principles, fails to control adequately for important confounding influences, factors other than the one study that may affect our conclusions, and provide alternative explanations for its conclusions, and violates its own guidelines and established to risk a potential environmental toxin. Furthermore, compared to other kinds of tobacco smoke, only a small fraction of the constituents may...
We now have one more cross-examination period. Please keep your comments. They're not finished time. It is questions. So thank you very much. We have questions. All right.
For the phone survey, what was the error margin for that?
Just a second while I get the data.
One second, I don't believe I saw an error margin in that survey, but if I have one, I'll let you know in a second here.
No, I'm sorry, they don't list having an error margin.